Welcome back, one and all, to another episode of a very basic space program. You find me in the VAB because, well, we've got some building work to do today. Because last episode we opened up the Pandora's box that is by propellants, which is changing the landscape. We've also got our hydrolocks going, so we've got some big improvements in what we can do. If we have a look on our little alarm clock, we have Uranus and Jupiter coming up. Now I would love to send a craft to Jupiter that can go into orbit, so that's definitely something I want to do. We may end up just taking one of our previous craft and just changing the fuel on it. Uranus, I'd love to send a craft to there as well, so there's a possibility there of 2 missions. Then we've got Mars. We would love to send an orbiter there. We can possibly do that. We've got Pluto, and then we've got Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and those are all, potentially we could send something to there every year because of the way that the planets are. But we've got those going. We've got Mars we want to do. We definitely want to send something to Mars, and we probably want to put something together for Venus for an orbit. Potentially for Venus and Mars, some sort of atmospheric craft would be an option as well. So close that down. Let's have a look. If we want to go to the outer planets, we need to be able to communicate. Right here I've got the best antenna that we can currently get. Okay, it is a foldy antenna, so we can retract it, we can open it up again. Ideally I'd have this one, which we're currently going to start, we're going to start researching it soon. We have got the science to start researching it, we just haven't got to the research yet. This is a much better antenna for longer range, but we don't have that, so we're going to not be using it. So what I would do is, potentially if you build a craft, you may end up adapting it in when you get this antenna and just adding it on. But let's have a look at this one. So let's open the antenna planning window, and let's put this to where it should be, 4. There we go. Right, if I go and have a look, right, we've got our antenna, primary antenna, communitron, and we want to communicate with a base station. There we go. So we're going to try and communicate with Madrid, and it's an S channel signal. Okay, and we can see if we go to Jupiter, we are able to receive. We're not able to transmit because we're too far away, but if we up this here, we can see, there we go, we start to get something. So if we take up our gain, we can, let's take it to 50 just to make it easy. At 50, you can see we're actually able to transmit better than we are receiving when we're actually far out, because the transmitter's doing a reasonably good job there. In Saturn, yep, it is able to work out to Saturn. Uranus, no, it is not. That's a problem. You'll see that both numbers are 0. That means that even if we crank this up to maximum, let's try it. Yeah, we can try and crank this up to maximum. We can transmit, we can't receive. Okay, which is pretty, in my mind, pretty useless. I would like to be able to receive and transmit both things so that we can actually have communication of some sort. I don't actually know if Kerbalism and data transfer and stuff will allow you to, if you've got your transmission high enough, will allow you to transmit it, even if you can't receive. If you can just transmit it wildly, that's an option. But equally, we would not be able to, I believe, control a craft, so we wouldn't be able to go into orbit. And I really would, if we're going to Uranus and Neptune, I'm going to want to put something in orbit, because I'm not going to want to wait around another 5 years for something else to turn up. So what can we do? Well, we know that our tech level on the ground is currently 4. However, it's not going to be 4 when these arrive. So let's see what happens if we go up to tech level 7. That's, I think, something we could achieve. If we're at tech level 7, let's get this correct. So we're on S band. You see, if we take this down to any number at all, we're still not able to do it. Saturn, we're getting a signal, but Uranus, no, we're not. So Uranus, Neptune potentially are going to be out of range. What about level 8? What about if we go to level 8? Does that give us anything? Still, oh no, here we are. Got receive. So at level 8, we can potentially get a signal. Can we transmit? Yes, we can. So if we put our craft, if we build these with a level 8, with the plans for having a level 8 transmitter, we could potentially go out to Venus. Can we go to Neptune? We can go to Neptune as well. Pluto? Oh, we actually, yeah, potentially Pluto, but Neptune, Uranus, I'm not going to send anything to Pluto at the moment, primarily because it takes so long to get there. I would like to basically, yeah, we will possibly send something to Pluto, but the main issue comes there is power. We end up with a power problem. Okay, so Potentially we're going to have this transmitter at 50 decibels, which does draw a lot of power, but the good thing is that actually its idle power doesn't go up. So just when transmitting, it's going to be using power, but we don't need to worry about that. It's going to be very rarely transmitting. So we're going to be okay with that, I think. That's going to be our antenna. It's going to take a bit of power though, okay? So we need this antenna, 50 decibels. What else do we need to think about? Well, we want to potentially put this thing into orbit. Tell you what, let's load up one of our discovery craft and see if we can modify a bit and see what we get. Right, so here is our discovery craft. We know that we're going to have this set at 50 decibels. Now, how long is this going to take? Does it matter how long this takes actually? Let's go and have a think about this. The potential issue we have is these radioactive sources. These radioactive sources will start to produce less and less electricity, okay? So they have, I think, a half-life of about 50 years. They're going to produce about half as much electricity in 50 years. What are we looking at for energy draw at the moment? We can see that, let's turn off this avionics. Where is the avionics? If we turn off our avionics, we're awfully close to actually maxing out. So when the science is running, it's going to be using it all up. So we would probably need to actually triple up this. We probably want 3 of them, just to be careful, just to be safe. So let's go for 3. Potentially you would maybe want to go for 4. So we could maybe go for 4. But again, we also could get better ones of these before this launches. So we have to keep that in mind. So there we go, there's 4 of those just sat on there. That's going to add a lot of mass to this. Then what are we going to do? Well, we've got the best we can here. We don't really need that much in the way of electric charge stored, so we can apply that. Okay, good. Then we can, let's have a look. What have we got? Have we got any fuel on board? We have HTP on board. So let's get rid of that straight away, I think, because we're not going to be using HTP on this craft. So we go into our tank UI and we're going to go remove that. Now we also need to remember to remove the helium, the pressurant as well. We don't need that at the moment as well. So that's now lightened this down significantly. We also can empty these tanks out, so we can empty those. So remove all tanks. There we go. Right, a little bit of a different craft now. Let's see, we've got a mass on it. We have a mass of 0.318. Okay, now we want to put some fuel on board this that potentially will allow us to get into orbit. Let's have a think. How much do we think it's going to take? Well, we could do a bit of a, go on and check the captures and stuff. In fact, let's have a look at that. Can we do a quick capture? Insertion burn. Yeah, we'll actually do an insertion burn. We'll do from Earth. We'll do to, let's use Uranus as a good example. Final orbit. Not that. Let's put it reasonably high. And let's plot that. And let's see. It's going to say to us that its insertion burn is huge, but that's going to be to put it into a circular orbit. That is a problem for us. We don't really know how much it's going to take to actually capture. For example, we know that Jupiter wasn't too bad for us, was it? So let's plot Jupiter and see what it says. It says Jupiter's insertion burn into that altitude is huge. We know it's a lot less than that, so not a great way of doing it. What you can do is actually go onto the main screen and you can create those maneuvers. In fact, maybe we should do that. If we have a craft, I'm going to go and have a check. If I have a craft, I'll show you what we can do with that. So here we are with Discovery 3, which failed to do pretty much anything we wanted it to do. It had I believe it had a fault on one of its stages. I think it was its second stage engine. It skewed, of course. So we basically just sat it in orbit, and it's been doing some science for us. It's got electricity and things like that. We've finished a vessel, get rid of that. Right, so what we're going to do with this, well, we don't really care too much about what it's doing. We just need it, and if I show you here, to be in the plane of what we normally launch into. So we normally launch into the plane of the moon. So there you go. This thing is roughly, slightly in the plane of the moon. It's not perfect. You can see the blue line there. It is sort of in the plane of the moon. It's probably about half a degree out, something like that. Yeah, 0 point. It's almost a degree out, so it's not terrible. Its orbit isn't perfectly circular, but we don't care about that because that's not what we're interested in. What we want to know is, okay, if I go out as far as, let's do Neptune. So set as target, and then we're going to get a little bit cheaty. So we're going to say to ourselves, I want to create a maneuver. I want to create a maneuver. I want to do advanced transfer to Mercury. We'll go at include the capture burn because we want a nice time there. Let's put that one there. Right. Create node. Okay, so this is now, and we go into here. This has now created a node for us. It's taking us out to Neptune, and then it's creating a capture node here. So what we're going to do is, on this node here, we're going to actually go against what it would normally do. We're going to cancel out the delta V that it would be normally creating, as it were. So there we go. There we go. Keep going. And we want to go until we just capture, or we get, capture to a distance we want to. Now for us, I'd really like to capture maybe to sort of Titan's type of orbit. I'd like to be hanging around there because then I could grab a Titan flyby potentially. So we've got that. Now, what we can do is we can have a look and go, well, this isn't the delta V that I actually want. This is the departure delta V. What I can do though is go across to my second maneuver node, click on the bottom here, down to my second maneuver node, and we can see that it's about 1,200, 1,200 something. Well, you can add those numbers together if you wish, or you can do the easy thing, which is you click this and it shows you 1165. So we know that going to Neptune, we're going to need about 1,165 meters per second to actually capture. Write it down. Okay, it's worth just knowing these things. That's just going to give us into a loose capture round sort of Triton's orbit like that. And Neptune's a reasonably easy one to go for because it's pretty much only got, I think it's only got one moon on here. Yeah, it's only got one moon identified. Right, let's try something else then, because Neptune, so we're looking at 1,500 to be safe on Neptune, because we might want to do some mid-course corrections. Now, we're not going to Pluto, so then we're going to go to Uranus. So set that as target. We'll do the same thing there. Do that. Create node. Superb. It's now the target, so we go over here. We focus the view there, we come in, and we're going to do the same thing. Now, alternatively, now this is the interesting one. Because Neptune is basically tilted as it is, it becomes really interesting about if you go on to try and get your craft into this sort of set of orbits. What I would aim to do is do an initial burn to hold it on that plane, and then another burn potentially to put it into some interesting interactions. You can do potentially some interesting stuff. So you want to take as much delta V as you can to Uranus, because yeah, it's going to be interesting. Right, so for this one we're going to let it go out again like we did last time, and you can see it's going to spin around and it's going to give us some delta V at some point. Come on, here we go, come on, it's going to, right, there we go. So now we're basically, if we have a look, our apoapse is near the outer thing there, Oberon. You got Oberon, you got all of the Titania. Yeah, all these things from I believe it's Midsummer Night's Dream, I always think, or fairies of some sort. Anyway, that's the sort of thing you're looking for there. What's that going to be? That's going to be 900. Okay, so that's only going to be like 1,000. Superb. So about 1,500 would do both of those. It would definitely do Jupiter, we know that. Saturn, let's have a look, just because, for sanity's sake. Saturn, set as target. We'll go do there, create node. Wonderful. Done that. Focus in. And then we can do the same thing again. Now, interestingly, have we got a node already sat on here? That's interesting. I think we may already have a... Is that a secondary node? I don't know. Right. Let's have a look. So we're going to take this one. And you can see Saturn. Interestingly, we've got a very tilted orbit there. We're going to pull this out. And because these gas giants are so big, the actual delta V to capture low is really high, because you've got to basically, it's like trying to get down to the low levels of the sun almost. But just capturing round them is a lot easier. Look at that. So there we go. Stop that there. That takes us out to Petus. So let's have a look how much that's going to be. That's going to be 900 as well. So you're looking at basically 1,500 is more than enough for all these outer planets. So you can potentially build a craft that will do all of those. So let's see if we can do that. Right, so here we are with our modified Discovery. I've written it as Discovery 11, but I don't believe we're actually going to call it Discovery 11. It's got its extra RTGs to give it some more power. They'll need to be repositioned. We might make it a bit more artistic than this because this is a very rough design. But let's fill its tanks. First of all, let's change its engine to something that we really want. Now, I could do Caviar B, but let's do. We're launching from the Cape, so let's go for. I think MHNTO would probably be the one to go for, wouldn't it? I think Aerosine is tempting. It is the best we've got. Let's do it. Aerosine 50 NTO. Right, so there we are. Aerosine 50 NTO. And then let's put some into the tanks. Now I will of course have to change the orientation controls and things like that. So we'll do that. And that takes up to 700 already. Now the other thing is we need to actually get rid of some of this extra space there. Look at that. It just shimmies that down a bit. We'll change these because sometimes it does change their mass. So we're going to go Aerosine. There we go. Right, that's done. Now, what's the total mass of the craft? Total mass of the craft is less than half a ton. So what happens if we just make it a little bigger? Let's try making these tanks just a little bigger. Well, that gives us 1,000 meters per second. What's our actual, we can control half a ton. So let's take this to half a ton. Let's take it to half a ton. Actually, I want to do it that way, don't I? And I want to do it that way. Right. We have got quite a bit to go, actually. There we go, a bit more. That's over half a ton, right? Although if I do this, there we go, we're still below half a ton. So let's go to 430, 430 and do that. We're now over half a ton. Oh, this is the playing backwards and forwards game that you have to play. And there we go. So we're under half a ton and we have 1,137. So this thing potentially under half a ton is capable of orbiting all of those planetary bodies. Is this the thing that I'm going to send? Probably not. I will probably change it quite a bit, and I might want to send a bit more Delta V. We saw that particularly, I think it was Neptune, we wanted a bit more. It's a little bit smaller, you know. We want to get a little tighter because Titan is the only moon there and things like that. We may want to do some changes of or refinement of our path on the way there, so we might want to put extra in. So potentially 1,500 is probably what I would be wanting to go for just for these missions. But, you know, for this craft to go to that size, we're looking at, let's have a look. What sort of mass? Yeah, there we go. We're looking at a mass of about 0.57 tons, which is almost nothing for this. If we actually scale this up, let's call it 0.6 and apply that. There we go. There you go. 1,500 meters per second. That's a chunky probe there. We've got more than enough electricity produced when our avionics are off, and when we put them on, let's turn them off thing. We can still, when we're around the near space, we can actually have our avionics on at all time if we really wanted to. It also means that potentially, because we're going to go into orbit, we can go into orbit, we can do the science as and when we want to. It doesn't matter about energy usage. When this drops down to half its current energy, that's fine. In fact, let's check the actual thing, because I've said that it has a problem with energy, but let's have a look. Does it have a half-life? 40 years. Okay, 40 years half-life. So this thing's got 40 years before we're even worrying about it having an inability to transmit. So that's a lot of good stuff there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refine this a little bit. We'll make it prettier, I think. And I will get right back to you with the outcome of that. Right, so here is our finished craft. This is the Discovery 11 as is its current form, and you can see basically all I've done is just reshaped it. We've made it a little bit wider, given it more an angular approach this time. I have partially embedded these into the side. Yeah, I know it's a bit of part clipping there, but in my mind, what we'd actually do is we'd actually have the fins integrated all the way down the side here, and you can't actually do that on RO. So yeah, we're gonna play it by ear. We could actually pull those down a bit. I don't know if I like it like that. We'll just pop them up there like that. So yeah, we've got access around the sides for the radiant dissipation of heat there, and The other thing is, I would imagine that these are actually used to sort of warm the center of the craft, keep it warm in the dark nights of space and things like that, or potentially keep it, you know, electrified. I'm not sure how cold these things get. I mean, I imagine the solar wind and stuff is actually sort of, it potentially will heat them up a bit over time, I suppose, when they're going far out though. Down here we have basically fuel storage in integral aluminium tanks, high pressure there, and so this thing has got delta V over 1,500, so we potentially will get orbit around most of the planetary gas giants who we're looking at. It might be tight on I think it was Neptune because of you know, potential maneuvers to refine or flight paths and things like that, but we may be okay. We would have to see. We probably should be okay. It depends how good our launch is and things like that. So there's that there. That's doing rather well. So what else is there? Well, to get that far out, we need a bigger launch vehicle. So we've been putting this off for a while. We have to build a new launch vehicle, and I'm going to show you how I go through the process. So let's have a look. First of all, we have our control core. This is going to be the control core for the final stage, whatever stage is going to put us onto orbit. We're going to have the payload above this, so we're going to need a couple of things before we even start. We're going to need some payload fairings of some sort. We're going to start with, let's see, what have we got that we've already used? Interstage, no. We've got this one, truss payload adapter. I quite like that one actually, that's nice. And what's its width currently? It's at 3 meters, which is perfect. I'm going to see if we can go with a 3 meter sort of setup. So we've got 3 meter there, fairing. Now, this has a decoupler, I believe, on top of it. Decoupler enabled, wonderful. We'll do that. We'll keep it as it is at the moment. Right, so then we have to go, right, how much do we want to put on orbit? Well, I would really like to put on orbit, I think 20 tons. I think 20 tons is enough for us to send something out to the farther reaches of the solar system. I think it's probably enough for us to do sort of initial landings on Venus, orbits around Venus, Mars, probably potentially for us to put something into orbit around some of the other bodies, but I don't know. We can always try and uprate it if we need something bigger for Phobos, not Phobos, Deimos, but for Vesta and Siri, which have sort of gone in my mind to one side because I don't know. I think we can get a flyby of them. It would be nice to get a flyby and an orbit at the same time, but they're close enough so that we can get regular things going to them. So we're going to have a look at this. So what we do is we are going to set this to be basically full of lead is what we're going to put it in, and this is going to be our ballast. There we go. If you don't do this before, yeah, do it. I think it's a brilliant way of building a little ballast set. So that is 3 tons. We want to actually make it a bit bigger. 5, there's 20, that's a bit too big. What you can do is just pull this down. We're going to make it just a smidgen over. I'm going to make it 21. Which is probably not what people would suggest to do. Don't make it too much. But well, we'll make it 21.12. I always make it a little bit more because it just makes it easier later on. You know, it's horrible if you then find out you're slightly short. Whereas if I plan everything to 20 tons for this craft, then I should, even with a bad launch, hopefully get it into orbit. Right, second stage. Now the question is, do we do 2 stages or 3 stages? That is a good question. We're going to have to see what engines we have available. So we're going to integral structure. We could go balloon. Potentially it would save us a bit of mass and things like that. And yeah, maybe that's an idea for this stage. We'll see how it goes. So diameter is going to be 3. And then we're going to have a look at our engines. What engines do we have that are going to be on orbit? Well, we could have relightable ones, but maybe not for this build. So these ones here we've used before give 338 meters per second, and we're literally just now looking at thrust and thrust and ISP is what we're looking at. ISP is going to be king for this one because remember these are going to be having potentially a long time to burn. We could go even hydrolocks on this stage, upper stage. So there's those. We could go with these 312. I can't remember what the second config is. 323. Okay, we could, is that the same? We could, that's one we've used before. What was I looking at down here? Right, so those are the 2 that we've used so far. as upper stages. This one here is, what are we looking at? 334, and this one is 338. I think this one's slightly denser regarding fuels. It does give us the interesting, potentially using stuff. So I think we're going to go for, no, we're not. We're going to go for this. We're going to go for this primarily because I like the potential that we may want to be able to restart it in the future. I like that. So that's going to go to there. You can see it's a horribly cut off. We will sort out possibly a fairing or something over it in the future, but we're going to gauge sizes first. So we're going to fill this up with fuel. There we go. We are on the right sort, aren't we? Yes, we are. So we're going to fill it up with fuel. And the rated burn time of these is, let's have a look, hover over it, is 250 seconds, which equates in my little head to about 4 minutes and 30, something like that. We can actually take that up. 4 minutes and 30. So what we can do is we can have a look down here. That's got 1 minute so far. That's a lot. That's a lot of delta V. Wow. That is a lot of delta V. I don't know if we actually need to have 4 of them. I was thinking 4, but okay. Let's try 2. Just try 2. Now it might be the, yeah. So what we need to do is, I know what it is. We need to disable the decoupler. I know exactly what this is. So disable that decoupler, and you'll see it drops. It drops like a stone. Yes. So we do need 4, at least 4 of them. Yeah. In fact, they might not be enough for this. That might be a problem we're running into already. So let's have a look. If we take this to, what did I say? 4 minutes. So let's make it 4 minutes worth. Yeah, 4 minutes 30. That's 2,000 meters per second. That is not a lot on this craft. Its thrust to weight never really gets up there. So maybe this isn't the right engine for us. So maybe we need to go for one of these sets instead, and we'll change out this. Remove all tanks, put this in. That gives us 2,000. It does give us a better thrust to weight, and let's have a look at this for engine. Oh, we can upgrade it, and that gives us even better ISP actually. It runs slightly less time, but it gives us better ISP. And does it give a better thrust? It gives a little bit more thrust. So that would be, let's see, burn time 260. So that is, again, it's going to be a little burn, 4 minutes 20 seconds. So let's do that. And then just because I always do it, remove the tanks, put them back in again. So we take this up to 4 minutes 20 seconds. Oh, that's not a lot at all, is it? Look at that. So it's about 3,000 meters per second. So we're probably going to be looking at 3 stages in that mind, is what I'm thinking. We may even want to look at hydroloxing this stage. That's another option. Go balloon tanks and hydrolox. This 20 tons on top of here is a lot. Right. Next step is, what's our next engine? Well, we could go really big. This is going to be a 50 ton stage. We potentially are going to come up against our limit, because I think we have a limit at the moment of, I think, is it 350 tons we are on? I'd have to check. We may have a bigger pad actually. We have a 350, 750 or whatever it is. We may want to actually move to some bigger engines, things like that. But I'm actually going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it there because I want to do a bit of calculating with this, and I want you to have a think about this. Go and get the game on, have a think. What would you do in this situation? What's your go-to situation with these engines available? Do I go hydrolox for this, bit like a Saturn almost? Do I go 3 stages? Do we think about maybe, I don't know, strap-on boosters or something like that? I don't know if we've got any solids available. We could have, like a Falcon Heavy or a Delta 4 Heavy sort of design. That would be interesting to see. So it's been a buildy episode. Next episode we're going to come back. We're going to probably be finishing something off, and probably sending it up into orbit to see what it does. But from me, until next time, have a great one.